It's been a very long time since you have seen me. My bad. But I came with the Polygamist. So everybody was doing their Polygamist reviews on Netflix. And I was like, pump the brakes. I'm going to go buy the book and read the book and come to you with a more comprehensive review of The Polygamist. Okay, so there are a lot. Spoiler review, spoiler review. I'm gonna say off rip, the book is not the writing is not very good. So there's that. But put aside the writing, and we have a story that focuses on. I can understand why this was turned into a series, however, even though, I mean, it's not a lot of pages. It's a little less than 200. It's just, like I said, it doesn't read very well. So I can tell you, I'm gonna try to parallel the book with with the TV series. To South, well, s- it was pitched as a South African story, but they're in Zimbabwe in the book. And in this story, you have opening scene. Joyce comes to Janasi and says, because that does happen in the book. The book starts off that way, so it does grip you that way where you're in you're in a the opening scene starts off with I don't know if you can hear the fan. So let me put my headphones on so you may not hear as much of the fan because it's too hot as here. It's too hot in my house for me to turn the fan off. Okay, so Janasi starts off, is laying in a casket. Joyce comes over and is like, so, this whole, you know, kind of what MF. And you're like, whoa. So that's very similar to how the book starts. The only difference is that the kids are older. And so you get where Joyce is talking with her oldest daughter, and the oldest daughter is getting married, and she's like, so what the hell? Why do you want to get married? And but then she's like, wait a second, I'm supposed to be happy for this moment. And good thing your dad's dead because you wouldn't want him to walk you down the aisle, right? So that's how it all starts. And then so then we get to, well, kind of tell me, do you want to talk about share your experience as to why you feel this terribly about marriage? And so and then so she kind of goes and tells her story of how she was with Janasi, which is a lot different which is a little, I mean, it still has the same retrofit when it comes to it. One of the major differences between this is that it's kind of how the women are put together. So Janasi and Joyce, even though Janasi did meet Essie, right? So that's her name. He did meet her first. That is true. But however, the difference though is that he hooked up with Joyce. I wouldn't say that she was first, but Joyce was young. Joyce was 14 years old. Let me see. Am I right, Essie? Yeah. Joyce was 14, 15 years old. She already had a baby so that's why they ended up getting married she was pregnant. And so she got married young, and he was a little older than her. I wouldn't say a little, but he was in his 20s when she had a baby, when they got married and she had a baby. So she was on her second baby by the time she was 18 years old. And her dad put a lot of money in helping him flourish. So that's how that even started, helping him with his career. We didn't get much of a backdrop. Him and Essie were messing around back and forth, back and forth. So that's kind of how that came into to being. But by the time Essie had her, in the book, it doesn't describe like how in the story it describes how he grew up with Essie, and Essie was the one who looked out for him, looked out for him, career, just around the neighborhood. She gave him some money for him to go finance his life, finance him to go to school, and he was always supposed to come back, and then eventually he did come back. But by that time, she already had a son by somebody, and but in the book, it doesn't show that aspect, but it does show that him and Essie were together, will go back and forth, but she was supposed to get married to her oldest son's father. He gets killed. And the oldest son is not, lives with her mother down the street. And he's a menace. He runs the street. See, in the TV show, there's a little bit of a reason as to why he's acts this way. But at the same token, there's a little bit of a quality to why he's not a terrible guy. He's just indignant because he knows what's going on. Whereas in the book, he is a gangster. He runs the streets. She blames a bit of herself uh because he saw her living her life not well. So you get that aspect of it. And and how she would keep meeting different men and bringing different men at around the house. She had these two kids by Janasi. They are both um at least the youngest one is 19. They're both in school. Uh they were going to school out of the country, but by the time Janasi died, he he was paying for both of them to go out of the country, but she but because he died, no one was there to pay the fees, and so therefore the daughter had was forced to go to school at the University of Zimbabwe. They do mention how the recession that took place in 2003 really took a hit, and and then progressed, and how Zimbabwe as a whole between 2003 to 2008, Zimbabwe diminished significantly, took a huge hit. Genasi's business took a huge hit. In fact, Genasi's business almost, goes from top of the heap on the international stock market kind of a space, all the way down to being out of business. But he has offshore accounts, and the only person who has access to them is Joyce, and he does that intentionally, according to him. He's like, I'm not helping nobody else. Um, SC has HIV, which is not to say that he did, the question is where did he get it? Because the only person who doesn't end up getting it is Joyce and Matiba, I believe. Everybody else gets it. Um, Matifa. Those are the only two that do not get it. I I um but the girl, is it the young girl? Gosh, what is her name? Lindani, Lindani, him, and EC, those three got HIV. He gets AIDS full blown because he stops taking his medicine. And there is no random person. The whole scene where she sets the house on fire, that never happens. The whole that in the book, that never happens. It also never happens that she goes to jail at any given point and she tries to kill him at any given, like all the times that in the TV show where she tries to kill him, that never happens in any of it. So wash all that away. Um, if you're reading, according to the book. But it's good fodder for the TV show. I mean, I'm not mad at her trying to kill him in all these different ways, scenarios, but she does want him to go. And I'm assuming that Lindani is the one who ended up giving him AIDS only because Lindani was not the brother's love interest or someone that his son's love interest. Lindani is someone who was having sex with anybody, and she had like about five different men on a cycle that she was having sex. She had like eight abortions by the time that she was going to keep this final one that she claimed was Genasi's baby, but it wasn't his baby. And by the seventh month, she does um, have a miscarriage. So that's really terrible. She talks about how she continued the book is written in everybody's different perspective. So each chapter has a different perspective. You don't get to understand what perspective it is until as you're reading it in the chapter, you're like, okay, so has to be this person's perspective. There's no hint. There's no name that comes. It would be nice instead if you put the name of the chapter, you put the name of the person so that the reader can easily follow this along. But it takes a while for you to pick up, okay, this is the perspective of this person. So, that's a hint, you know, to help the reader would be nice. You also, so Ladani does eventually do have sex with the son though. And it sucks because she does this in Joyce's house. And it's unfortunate that she does this because by that time she knows that she has HIV. She's taking medicine for it. I don't know if she's running around with condoms or if he uses condoms. I think the thing that bothers me about this, even when I watch the show, the thing that bothers me is that it falls in so many tropes. And this is what I was originally going to write about, do a video about. Even though the polygamist is extremely salacious, it follows the trope that South Africans and Africans in general are overly sexualized beings, right? So that they tend to consistently have sex. And it also falls in the trope that they do not use protection, they do not care about protection. And it reminds me of all the different issues that took place during the 80s and 90s when it came to the HIV and AIDS movement and how many were moving, especially from the West, were trying to push women to use condoms and to have their husbands present their husbands with, please use a condom because there was an understood that all of these men were cheating there was an understood that all of these men were cheating. And that's the thing that I'm not sure how much I liked. I well, this show is kind of touching upon that premise that these men are don't know how to control themselves and that women are almost reduced to being sexualized in order to find a way in society. And so, I mean, look, that may be what is actually happening. So I teeter on both of these. It's not to say that that isn't what's happening, but I am saying that this is a stereotype that is being continuously perpetuated. And I'm not sure if I'm supposed to kind of enjoy this or, or if I'm supposed to also kind of cringe. Because when you're reading The Polygamist, the book, it does have this very harsh push against, I can't believe these women, these, the women are very quick to call each other, out of their name, whores and, and all these different things because they feel that there should be a level of respect of marriage, even though there's, they do hold the guy responsible, but it's almost like a guy will be a guy. And not, you should be okay with this a bit. So there is a scene in the movie and I mean in the TV series, just like the book, where he is abusive and he does force himself on um Joyce and oh my gosh, Madon not Ladani, but um Matipa. And that's the breaking point as to why Matipa eventually left. She does leave for 5 years. The thing I thought was really interesting is that Joyce is looked upon a little bit nicer in the TV show. Matipa actually does tie her tubes. And Joyce actually does tie her tubes. The both of them tie their tubes. And you see that Matipa is upset that she left. And is Matipa's upset because she does get married to a white man, lives in America, New Hampshire specifically, comes back for the funeral, and she and her children are, it's been 5 years and they've grown really close to Joyce. She's upset with Joyce that they have grown so close to her, which I don't understand how you could be upset. You literally left your kids when they were babies. I don't know how you assume that children, what are they supposed to call Joyce? Auntie? Like, I mean, they were not even one yet. I think they're maybe one when you left them. So they're about 6 or 7 years old. Of course, they're going to probably call Joyce Mama. So I thought that's kind of a weird space to be. Joyce has 4 kids. Yeah, so four. Yeah, Joyce has 4 kids. So I thought that was more interesting to see that taking place. Issy had been around the house, but she was not as around the house thinking that she was a relative playing off as his brother's wife. That was not happening. But they looked at it as playing off. Everybody knew who on his side of the family knew who she was, but and knew that these were her kids. And she doesn't find out that these two were his kids until Issy was in the hospital with TB, come to find out had HIV. And also the way they portrayed Issy in the TV series was that she was a lot friendlier. She was not friendly. She was rude. Her kids really didn't like her too much. She was really mean to her kids. So I think that that was an interesting thing. And she was absolutely on salary. She was getting a salary from him. So and his side and her, when she was in the hospital, really sick, everybody just was like, okay, I'm taking over the house. Her son took over her car. Like, I mean, everybody was just taking up pieces of her. LaDonnie is the one who really gets screwed over in this whole process because she's looking around like, okay, so who's going to take care of me? I can't have babies. It's probably because you had 8 illegal abortions, but I can't have babies. I have, and I know that she was thinking, well, maybe I should have had a baby by Janasi, but I'm glad she didn't because she would have been even more screwed because he didn't leave provisions to take care of anybody outside of Joyce and her kids. And you would have been at the mercy of Joyce giving you some money for these kids. And Joyce was not willing to give anybody any money to help with anybody's kids. She didn't, in fact, she point blank as Mata, um, why can I not keep up with her name? Matipa asked her specifically, like, are you here to give me some money for child support for me taking care of your kids for the last 5 years? And she's like, no, I can't afford it. Now, how you can't afford it and you wearing, Chan was she wearing Chanel at the funeral or Christian Louis Vuitton? So you can't give any money to help with the babies that she helped raise and you wearing Louis Vuitton? Is that what I'm supposed to understand? I thought that was pretty whack. So to be fair, I mean, I don't know which one's better when it comes how much more salacious, but I do think that the TV show really depicts him as more terrible in some way than the book, but I do think that I mean I don't if they come out with a sequel, they would have to I mean if they come out with a season 2 of the Netflix show, I don't know where you go from here. I mean, there's a lot that you could go, but I would argue that it could not be source material here because the book ends with him saying, I'm not giving anybody anything. And we also don't get we do know that the oldest daughter, her oldest daughter, their oldest daughter is getting married. So that can go into a whole nother realm. We do know that we believe that this woman, because she was like, are you going to come? You know, I'm coming to take my kids back. And Joyce is like, okay, have your kids. I don't care. I love it because she's like, oh, I would have thought that she would have really wanted me not to keep my kids. And she's like, I don't care about keeping. I do not want to keep your kids forever. Please come and take your kids. I would love for you to have your kids back. Oop. But the problem is the kids don't want you. And it'll take time. I'm sure that the kids will, I mean, they're young. They're like 6, 7. They just need to learn. They know that their dad is dead, but they need to learn how to adjust to, who this is. The we do get a picture of who Joyce is a social media influencer in the TV show. In the book, she's really not. And so she's becoming a person who's going to be like an accountant. She goes back to school and she ends up liking her professor. And so she doesn't really want to date him until she goes out on one date, but they don't go on another date until her husband dies. And so, because he also has 2 kids by a woman that the woman left him because she was cheating on him. So, I mean, like I said, The level of promiscuity is a fascinating thing, and it really demonstrates, like I said, I don't know if how I feel like, I'm being me being not African. I don't know how I feel about if this is kind of what you want to depict, or I mean, it almost falls into a it does fall into a stereotype, and maybe this is an accurate depiction of them. I don't know. I don't know. I can't answer it. But I will say that, the TV shows are really good. I mean, it ends it every episode is 20 something minutes. And boy, oh my gosh. I'm like, wait a second. So I got caught up really quickly. The book is definitely salacious enough to keep you going. It's not a lot of fluff. So if you are interested in it, if you're a person who likes like Tara McMillan or Eric Jerome Dickey or something, it there's not a lot of description that's taking place. So, but this does give you snippets. It gives you the punchline of all the drama that's taking place. And it's like, this is ridiculous. This is insane. But anyway, with that being said, I bid you adieu. And hopefully, I want to come back and do a um, a review on. I know I'm 2 weeks late, but I do, and I'm gonna try to do it tomorrow. A review on the Odyssey because I did go back and reread the Odyssey, and I wanted to, and I actually have a different spin on this because, so I want to come back and do the Odyssey, and actually have, like I said, preview, hint, hint, a different spin than maybe what other people have. So have a great rest of your evening, and I will see you tomorrow.